Welcome to Surrounded by Sports, the podcast. I'm Kevin Perkins, and today I am here with Chip Holston. Chip is a mainstay in the Gulf Breeze community. His Chip's 24-hour gym has been going since the 90s. He now has 3 locations. He has been a world-class athlete, a member of the national bobsled team. He is a world weightlifting record holder and currently is invested in his community's fitness through both providing 3 locations to train and still training clients ranging 50 to 60 years apart. Chip, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Oh, man. Awesome. Actually, when I came up with the concept of doing something about how life and sport intersect and how athletic lifestyles can lead you to enjoying your entire life better, you were one of the first people that popped into my head. I've always pictured you as aggressively positive, and I think that stems from your confidence, which we're going to get into, and your willingness to see what's going on around you, but also you face things head on as much as you can. And I've always admired that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's a choice to be positive in life. I've always been a happy person. I've been blessed. I'm not going to lie. It's not that I didn't grow up in the sticks or, have to fight for my food every day. So I did have a nice childhood. So I guess that makes it a little easier for me to say that, I'm, happy and positive and motivated. But I still, over the years, had to work hard at everything that I've gotten. I mean, I did have some things given to me. I'm not going to lie about that either, but I still have worked very hard for where I am now in my life.
Right. Of course. We're going to talk about all that. We're going to do as much as we can to tell the story in the next couple of minutes. And we're going to do all that and more after this.
You are watching Surrounded by Sports, the podcast hosted by Kevin Perkins. This show emphasizes how sports and life intersect while showcasing the Gulf Coast. And now, Surrounded by Sports.
Welcome back. I'm here with Chip Holston. This is Surrounded by Sports. Follow us on our social media spots. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. This is the YouTube channel you're currently watching. So follow all that stuff and get involved with us. And Chip, let's start out at the beginning, okay? I consider you a Pensacolian, a Pensacola Beach guy, and I think you do too, but you start out in Birmingham, right?
Well, my family did. I'm actually born here in Gulf Breeze.
Okay.
But my mom and my father were from Birmingham, born and raised there. And in the early 60s, my mom decided she wanted to live closer to the beach. And they used to always come down here for spring break between here and Panama City. So I think they just got in the car and went due south till they hit the Gulf, and they hit it right here at Gulf Breeze, Pensacola Beach, and started roots. They bought a house and built a house in Gulf Breeze on High Point, and well, first they lived in Pensacola, and then moved around a little bit. Then they bought a house in Gulf Breeze in the early 70s, and that's where I was born. And my mom and my stepdad still live there to this day.
Right.
74.
Right. Early on, you get into earlier than most people, right? You get into weight training.
So my dad in the early 60s, he decided I guess it started as weightlifting first, and then kind of spawned into a little bit of bodybuilding. And the way it worked back there is more like an exhibit. Like they would go to a high school and they would set up a bench and they say, "Who wants to try this bench press out?" And you kind of volunteer, and whoever would bring this exhibit through to the schools, they would have like their strongest guy, and so anybody could go try. So, anyways, they had their strongest guy lift and do like, I don't know, say it was like 185 pounds. It might be like 5 or 6 reps. And then my dad goes up there first time, never worked out. He did it like double. He did it like 15 times, stronger, more than their guy. So then my dad got the bug right away. So he started lifting probably in the late 50s. And he was also into sports. He played football and different things. And then after lifting so much, there wasn't powerlifting so much back then. There was more like, they called them the odd lifts. And the odd lifts were squat, bench, and dead, or they would do like a one-arm shoulder press, kind of like you see some of the strongman stuff now. They'd also do Olympic lifting, clean and jerk snatch, those kind of lifts. But then he got into bodybuilding really heavily. And he became, first he was Mr. Birmingham, and then he was Mr. Alabama. And so he really got involved and got in that sport. And then that kind of evolved into weightlifting, and then later into powerlifting. And then when I was born and young, running around, 5, 6 is one of my earliest memories. I can remember being dragged along with my dad to powerlifting meets on the weekend. And those meets back then, it would last all weekend. You would have to get up at like 5, get in the car, drive to wherever you're going, start lifting at like 9. There'd be hundreds of lifters, and it was real slow. And we wouldn't get home till like midnight. And I just remember running around, playing, goofing off, watching my dad lift. And my dad was an incredible lifter, and he was always, winning first place ever since he's has been competing. And so I got the bug. So probably when I was about 12 was my first powerlifting meet. And I started lifting, a little bit before that, probably about 10 or 11, wherever we lived. Like at the time, my parents separated and divorced, and wherever my room was at my dad's house, instead of having like a room like a normal kid, I'd have a gym would be my room. Because I didn't only live there, part-time, just a little bit. Yeah. So instead of having a bed, I'd have like a bench press or a power rack. And then also my grandfather, I forgot to tell this part, that helped my dad out in his lifting career. He worked at Birmingham Steel. So he was able to make my dad back in the early 60s, before it was readily available, any kind of lifting gear he wanted. If he wanted a power rack, if he wanted a bar, if he wanted, more weight, plates, whatever. My grandfather could make that for my dad. So my dad had a really nice setup as far as lifting. So he kind of had a leg up on everybody else, because back then there was you could buy Weider plates, or there was some other York barbell. There wasn't really much. There wasn't the Dick's Sporting Goods like we have today, where you can just go, buy whatever you want, or the, marketplace where you can get all the used stuff. You just had to either make it, or you had to, wait a long time before it came to a Sears near you or something.
Right.
And, so he had a nice setup. And so me growing up, I always had weights around. And so I had a nice, early setup for me, so I could start lifting at a young age, when we thought it was appropriate. And just started lifting in my first meet. I lifted in right here in Atmore. It was called the Mayfest. And there was no teenage division back then, and I was 12, but I was lifting against all the men. So it was just weight classes. And I think I weighed 160 pounds, 165 pounds or something. So I lifted in the 165 pound weight category as bench press only. And it was up on a flatbed trailer. They pulled the trailer down to like downtown Atmore. They put this trailer, put the bench up on it. And so you have to walk up these steps. Anyways, and I'm competing, and I ended up getting third in my first meet against all these men that had been, doing it a long time and a lot older than me. So I kind of got hooked and started doing it more and more, and just started competing, whenever I could, along with my other, sports I was doing. Back then I was doing a lot of water skiing that I love to do. I did, of course, powerlifting, and then football, basketball, tennis. So I was doing a little bit of everything. But weightlifting was what I loved to do. Just the big reason I really enjoyed powerlifting is because it was one-on-one. It was just me and the bar. Whatever you lifted, if you got it, it was because you did all the work. If you didn't get it, so you did something wrong. And there was you didn't have to depend on somebody else dropping the ball or not doing their, part in the play. So it was such an individualized sport, and I just really loved that. And I mean, I can remember as a kid, 13, 14, now you see kids running around or playing video games or whatever. I mean, I was working out at midnight, just, on the weekends for fun. I just go down there for hours, goofing off, doing stuff. And I just really just loved it.
Well, that's okay. I was going to ask at some point, because you were so into weightlifting, I was thinking, did you get to have a childhood? But you did. You did get to water ski if you wanted to. You did get to.
Yeah. And I was never pressured into any of this. It was just like, this is what my dad did. And, you kind of wanted to follow along your dad's footsteps. So I would lift with him. He had a membership at the Downtown Y at the time. And on Fridays, it was family night. And family night, he could bring, you could bring whoever. So I would go down there with him on Friday nights. And the other times I was either working out here or maybe working out at the school if it was, between middle school and high school. But no, he was very motivational about me doing everything. So, I mean, he took me to water skiing meets all over the place. Like I said, I did tennis. I did the Junior Olympics and won a gold medal down in South Florida competing in tennis. I played football my whole life. That was, I would say, my main team sport was football that I really loved. And I still love football. I mean, I love watching football. Our whole kind of lives, especially in the Southeast down here, revolves around football. Like every Saturday, if Alabama's playing, everybody knows where I'm going to be. Watch it with my dad at our house. You know, we're already talking about the Florida State game coming up in Tallahassee. It's going to be a big one. So I love football. When I was younger, we were playing football on Saturdays. So then we would be listening to the games on the radio. Back before you had, devices when YouTube and you couldn't know what was going on. So we're sitting there in between, like halftime, we go listen to the games. So I had a great childhood. I mean, and like I said, I was never pushed into weightlifting. He helped me whenever I wanted any help, but it wasn't mandatory. I did it because I loved it. And I could just feel like I was kind of built to do it and I was good at it. So it made it easier for me to want to do it.
Right. And early on at a young age, you're learning focus and you're learning compartmentalizing because you're being where you're supposed to be. And then you're also obviously work ethic, but also you learn like wait, the saying is weights don't lie, right?
Correct.
You get some people can try to hit a baseball all day long and they're never really going to be that good at it. Right. But if you lift, you may not be physically able to do what you do. Like I may not have the body to do what you do. But I can maximize what I can do.
Well, and a great thing about powerlifting, just if you focus just on the three lifts, the squat, bench, and dead, powerlifting is so important and it's the basis of all sports now. You can't find any sport out there. I mean, if you go from tennis, golf, football, of course, every spectrum of sport, they're doing some sort of basic powerlifting movement. And if you can lift more weight, in return, it's going to either help you jump higher, run faster, or be stronger. One of those three things. And that's normally the most important thing in all sports. Now, like you talk about baseball, you talk about golf, there's a lot of hand-eye coordination that goes and a squat and a bench and a deadlift are not going to help you with those aspects. But it's definitely when you do make that connection with whatever the sport is, if it's kicking the ball or hitting it with a bat, if you're more powerful and your body can move faster, you're going to move whatever you hit farther, if that's what you want. And it makes all sports a little easier, the stronger you are.
Powerlifting is your explosiveness.
Correct.
Right. I was at Time Force the other day, and the weightlifting session was all basically powerlifting moves. And I went over to the coach and I said, you guys are basically just working on being explosive. And he was like, yeah, this whole thing is to be explosive. Then we're going to go over there and be explosive again. And that's what we're talking about. Now, so in high school, you begin the CHIPS gym, which is so odd for me to say, but that's really the genesis of where it begins, right?
Yeah. So back in high school, like I said, my main sport was football. And I love football, and I was really good at it. I was a running back, and I was a middle linebacker, and I was kind of great on both sides. I was a little bit better on the running back side of it because it's a little bit more rewarding, and you put a little bit more time and effort into it. And I think in high school I was averaging almost 10 yards a carry, and that was pretty good. And I ended up getting a shoulder injury, and the way it started was when I was a linebacker in football. And if you know football, you've got to kind of get the blockers off your legs, and that's the main thing you got to do. You're always pushing them down, pushing them away from you. And at some point, just over doing that multiple times, I dislocated my shoulder. So I had to kind of go through that, kind of rehab my junior year in high school. And that's kind of your crucial year when you're trying to, make it to the next level. So I played probably like 75% of that year, 25% I was having to deal with that. So the next year we actually had a coaching change. In my senior year, I was talking to the new coach and I said, I really want to play. I told him about my shoulder injury. I dislocated it like 4 or 5 times my junior year. It happened a lot. So it was kind of becoming a recurring thing, but I only did it on defense. So I was trying to explain to him, I was like, hey, how about if I just stay on the offensive side, I think I could be helpful for the team. I think, it'd be great. But when I'm playing, the certain linebacker position, which I love to hit guys, it just keeps dislocating. But I never do it running the ball because you're keeping your arms in tight. You're not pushing your arms out in front. So anyways, that didn't go over very well. The coach was like, no, you're going to play where I'm going to put you, and that's it. So I was like, okay. So I made a big decision. I decided to hang it up, and I didn't play football my senior year. So I said, instead of, since I need an outlet, I'm going to focus on powerlifting. So I went all in on powerlifting, and in the middle of all that, my senior year, there was an opportunity to do what they called DCT, diversified cooperative training. And what that is kind of like on-job training. When you're in high school, your senior year, you go to school half the year and you go to work the second half. And my mother at the time, she sold her, started the Sentinel newspaper. It was our local newspaper here. And so when she sold it, I talked her into looking for some investment property and for me to put all this equipment that I have accumulated over the years from my grandfather that I had bought in different places. We were working out of a warehouse at the Sentinel. So I talked her into buying a place in Harbortown for all the stuff. So I had this nice little setup of a gym in Harbortown, and me and my buddies were all working out there, and everything was going great. But it was just kind of for fun, just kind of a little place for us to go work out. And then I came up with the idea I could turn this into a business. People started walking by, see us in there, having a great time working out, looked like we were, doing something good, having fun. People wanted to join in. So it started to grow. And I said, and some of these people weren't my friends. So I was like, started feeling awkward. I'm letting all these strangers come in. I said, I need to start, I don't care if my friends come in for free, but I need to start charging these other people. So I got my stepdad to help me come up with like a business plan and know how to start a business. So we got together and we started what is now, back then it was just called Chip's Gym. And it was a small little, gym in Harbortown. And so I talked to my teachers into letting me try to do my DCT program through my gym. So I go to school from 8 a.m. and then at noon come home. And then at 1 o'clock, I'd go to the gym and stay till about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The only problem they have with it is whoever you're working for is normally your boss, and they're going to be doing all your evaluating. Well, there was nobody that was going to be my boss. I was going to be the boss. So I said, well, how about, I let either, you can come by whenever and you can, spot check on me and you can evaluate it. And then I let my teacher kind of be, not my boss for the gym, but for the class. So she could make sure I wasn't just goofing off and it was a legitimate business. And then it just grew from there. So I did decide to go away the next year, go away to college. I went to Tulane, and I was going to get a sports management degree. And my teacher that actually recruited me to come to Tulane kind of was like, hey, man, most of these people in these classes are going to these classes to do what you're doing already. You've already gotten to the next step. Now, there was, of course, a lot I could learn business wise and accounting wise, and that you could I needed to pick up and learn over the way. And I learned from trial and error and a lot of errors, but hopefully there's been a lot of trial too. But it was like a good way for me to, okay, I need to come home and I need to, really get focused on this business and really do it as a career. And then after the 92, 93 year of being in New Orleans, I came home. And actually, when I was in New Orleans, I got a job to kind of, now you have all this free time. So I was like, I'm going to go work at the YMCA. So I worked at the Lee Circle YMCA for that year that I was there. I was the night manager because they knew I'd had a gym already that I was running. And so they trusted me. And so I worked there like 5 or 6 hours, 4 or 5 times a week. And that helped me a lot. Learn how they ran their program. They've been doing it over 100 years. And so I was able to bring it back to mine and, tweak some things and come up with different ideas. And it really helped my business kind of blossom when I came back. And after being gone long enough, realizing that's what I wanted to do, I was more motivated about the business too, kind of get it going.
Right. Well, in a way, you created your own trade program.
Yes. I started it from, the scratch from, like the bedroom, went from the bedroom to the warehouse and then warehouse to empty office space. And in the office space, we just kind of, I mean, it wasn't built for a gym. It was actually a clothing shop. And we had to like, make it, like a gym environment. And then later, in 1999, after being in that location from 91 to 99, I decided that it was getting too small. I needed to expand. And that's when I purchased the location I'm in now, at 100 Maccabee, where it's now turned into Chip's 24-hour health and racket club.
Right.
It's a 10,000 square foot facility that has a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an incredible spot, and it's funny. You told me that it was a little weird trying to get loans and stuff like that. And I think it's interesting that a bank can't know what you know.
Right.
Like, a bank can go, well, it can't work because they're opening a place down the road that does the same. But I already have a membership. I'm invested in this community. Therefore, this community is invested in me. The fact that place seats a bunch of more people and has a pool isn't going to stop me.
Right. Well, I guess what they didn't, when you go to a banker and you have a business plan, and you sit and you present it in front of them, and then they start looking at comps and this stuff, they don't realize the heart and the drive that some people have. Like when I decided I wanted to be in the gym business, it doesn't bother me to be there 12, 13, 14 hours a day. It's like, I love it. And, if your heart's not in it, you're not going to be there putting in the time. Your business probably is going to fail. Right. And like when I was trying to purchase the Fitness Racket building, and I was going around to all the banks and, had a great business plan. I've been in business for 8 or 9 years and already had established that I've got, this many followers that they're going to come with me. And the business that I was purchasing had followers, and all the banks were so scared to loan me the money because, like you said, that there was another place coming in down the highway. And those people had a great idea, but those people weren't even in the fitness industry. Those people that built it and opened it, they knew nothing about the gym business. They knew nothing about equipment. They built the whole building backwards, upside down. The gym should have been on the bottom. They put it on the top. I mean, that right there kind of like messed up everything. And they built it way too big for the area. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a certain size, that this area can handle. It's kind of like, like the YMCA in downtown Pensacola. It started at a certain size, and then over time they realized that they need bigger. Then they tear that down, they build a new one. You don't start with a downtown Y that it is now. It probably would have gone belly up because it would have been too big. They couldn't have, so supported it with all those people back then. Now they can. So again, like with the club down the highway, if they would have done it maybe now and maybe scaled it down, it might have worked and then gradually grew, but they went all in right off the bat. Right. They were trying to replicate a gym that they had where they grew up, and they thought if they can do it there in that location, they can do it here. The big thing they didn't realize that the gym that they were copying started small like mine and gradually grew. They'd buy property and build and got bigger and bigger. And now it's called Red's Fitness in Lafayette. It's the largest gym in the world. Mm-hmm. And these people that move from Lafayette to here are like, we need a Red's Fitness here. Well, if they would have started small, and then had somebody like build it up, it probably would have worked. But when you go in multi-million dollars right up front, it's kind of hard to sustain that.
Well, and you're able to go with 1 or 2 employees.
Right. So when all the banks kept turning me down, luckily I had a partner, and I guess it was being at the right place at the right time, not a partner, but a friend that called me up and said, hey, I don't know if you know that this business, the Fitness Racket building is for sale, and just to see if you'd be interested in maybe buying it together. And I was like, and then I explained the whole story, what I've been working on for months and months. And then I said, yes, this would be perfect. He goes, look, I'll put up half the cash, you borrow the other half. And the bank had no problem putting up, if half the cash was put up, they said, yeah, we'll loan you half. We just can't loan you the whole amount. Right. So we jumped right in and made it a lot easier for me financially, and we didn't have that pressure, to start the business there. And then but we started small. Right. We didn't have a whole lot of money invested in it. We had the land in the building, and we just kind of worked our way up. It wasn't like we were upside down millions of dollars where
Right.
we, have 1,000 members right off the bat. We started with 300.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're up to 1,100, but that first 300 was enough to keep us going.
Right.
And as we built that 300 to 400, then it grew.
Right. But what you're talking about, you said if they would have started small and grown, that's what you've done. Now you're at 3 locations.
Now we have expanded. Now with the way the internet works and with iPhones and with all this new technology, there's ways for me now to run multiple businesses where I don't have to be there all the time. Now, of course, with the gym, you have to get started. You have to have equipment, and you have to have good people working underneath you to make sure everything's taken care of and it's clean and that kind of stuff. But as far as like getting new members to join, you've got social media now to advertise for you. You have apps on your phone that I can control everything. I can unlock the door for people. I can let people in. I can, with camera systems are all easy. With the Ring cameras, you can pop them up anywhere. So I got surveillance everywhere. I can talk to members through the Ring camera if they're doing something I don't like. I can control it. I can see exactly, how many members are joining, how many are coming in, how many are using it. Just all this new technology at our fingertips makes us like, that's why all these people are moving to all these different places in the world, because they can all work from home. They can work from anywhere. I can do everything I want to do from all 3 gyms. I can do it right on this iPad. I can do it on my cell phone. I can do it anywhere. I could go to, Europe for a couple of weeks and not feel like I'm missing out, because I was still answering the phone calls when I travel. I'm still, doing stuff. I'm still responding to emails. I mean, you can just do all the stuff that, 20 years ago you couldn't do. Now it's easy.
So you actively are able to stay in contact with members, even though it's 3 gyms now.
24/7. So we do have managers at each. And I have one partner in Midway, our Midway location, and it's a smaller facility. It's bigger than my first one, but it's 3,000 square feet. So it's twice as big as my first gym, but it's still, now it seems so small. But it's a good starter gym right there by the new high school coming in. And then we have one in Navarre, and it's a bigger location. It's almost as big as mine in Gulf Breeze. But we have 2 partners there, and one. So between the 3 of us, we have somebody that can get there. You have to have somebody close that can get to all the gyms. Like my first partner, Todd, he lives really close to the Midway one. I mean, like across 98. So you can get there if there's an emergency. Dave is the other partner in Navarre, and he lives in Fort Walton, so he can get to the Navarre one really quick. So that part's good. And we have multiple trainers at each location, and we want our trainers to feel like they're kind of like part owners and they're invested in the business. So they help, make sure everybody's happy. They help sign people up. If there's any questions, hey, just call Chip. I'll answer that question, or I'll call him. And, so they kind of keep the day-to-day gym going. Then we have, of course, cleaning crews and all that stuff, making sure it's all right. But yeah, as far as with technology, with the cell phones and texting and emails and in my app, and video, I can keep tabs on everything all the time, 24/7.
Wow.
I don't miss a beat.
Now, all the time that you're growing all this stuff, you're especially early on after you get to the racket ball facility that you turned into the gym, you're training to be a world-class athlete, and actually are.
Yeah. So the 2 sports. So I've always been in powerlifting, like I said, and I was, that's part of my love for being at the gym, for hours. I mean, I love lifting, and I'll lift all day. And so that almost made the weightlifting and powerlifting part of it easy, because I'm putting on all the time. One, because I'm there, because I'm working, and because I love to be there. So that part kind of grew. But along with the powerlifting side of it, as far as the athlete side, I was always a good at, like I said, I did football and I ran track, and I still have one of the records on the track team. But there was this was back in '94. There was a little article in, I think it was in the News Journal, a tiny little article. And my dad saw it and he said, "Hey, you see that little article in the paper? They said they're looking for strong, fast guys." And I'm like, "No, Dad, I didn't see that." And he goes, "We should go check that out." And it was in Mobile. So we drove over there on a Saturday, had no idea what it was for. Just said strong, fast guys. We didn't know if it was a tough man contest or powerlifting. We didn't know what it was. So we get there, and then they have this big bobsled out front. And I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is this thing? And my dad was like, I think it's a bobsled. And I was like, oh, so I guess this is a bobsled tryout or something. So we find out later is, yes, they were looking for athletes because over the last, I don't know how many Olympics, like 10 or 12 Olympics, the U.S. bobsled team hasn't been doing very well. So in the 88 Olympics and the 92 Olympics, they decided they were going to go after some athletes, and they got Herschel Walker, Edwin Moses, and Willie Gall, all football. One was a track and then 2 football athletes. And they were going to throw them into the sport without really long-term training, just like, enough to get ready for the Olympics, like a few months. And they were going to see how they did. And they did a great job. They were like, these guys have never been in the sport. It's not like a sport that you have to do for years. If you're strong and fast and you can push that sled, you can hop in. As long as you have a good driver at the helm driving the sled, you can really compete. So they realized, and they couldn't sustain athletes like that. They couldn't keep getting these kind of big time athletes. So they said, we're going to go around the country and go to different spots in the Southeast. So they went all around the Southeast. And luckily, one of the spots was close to home in Mobile. And I went over there and tried out. And there was like a few hundred guys trying out. And the first day, I get top 3 in the whole meet. After doing this, they call it 5 tests. So you do the 30 meter, 60 meter, 100 meter dash. And they have a point system, depending on what your time. You're not racing against somebody. You're just running for time. Then you have a shot put, double, granny style throw. You have a vertical leap for height, and then you have 5 consecutive hops. And once you do those 5 tests, and if you score a minimum of I think it was, at the time, it was like 500. If you scored above 500, you could come back the next day and push the sled. Well, out of those few hundred guys, there was only like 20 of us that scored above 500 on the test. So the 20 came back on Sunday, and then you got to push the sled, and whoever got the top 2 pushing the sled got an all expense paid trip up to Lake Placid to try out for the bobsled. So I came up on Sunday and ended up winning the whole Burley Man Tour. So I got third on the testing, but I outpushed everybody. We pushed it twice, and we averaged our time, and whoever the best average. So I ended up winning that. So they flew me to Lake Placid. This was in August of 94. It was right after the Lillehammer Olympics. Lillehammer Olympics were in February 94. So it's right after that. So went up there, and then you compete, do the same thing again, do the 5 tests, and then you push the sled. But their sled, instead of just on a railroad straightaway, this is like it has a hill, it goes down, goes up a hill, and it's got a bungee cord that throws it back down, and it's like a real sled with wheels. You got to jump in it, ride it, go down, and then it pushes you back. And so anyways, I did that the first year, and I ended up getting 14th. And the Olympic bobsled team is the top 13. So I missed the Olympic team by 1 spot. So Ann was the youngest guy trying out. So the coach said, hey, man, you did a great job. You didn't make the team. You missed it by 1 spot. But I tell you what, why don't you come back next year or come back this fall, and you can slide domestically. So in January, I flew up to Lake Placid, and I had to pay for that out of my dime so to make the team. But they would say, you can stay at the Olympic Training Center for free. We'll put you up here, and you can train, for this whole winter. And so I went up there and started sliding, and we did 8 races that winter, and I won a gold medal in all 8. We didn't even come in second on anything. We got first place on all 8 races. So then I had the bug for bobsledding now. I'm like, okay, I'm made for this sport. They're looking for guys that are compact, they're strong and fast, and can get in the sled and get in tuck. So I'm like, oh, I love this. So came back the next year, trained. Now I knew what I was training for. I pushed my motorcycle outside, had somebody ride in, pushed the motorcycle, and we were running up hills. I mean, I was doing all sorts of stuff training for it. So then I came back up the next year, and I made it. I got 12. I made the team by, 1 spot to spare. And then ever since then, I was just kind of hooked on bobsledding. And so I was on the Olympic bobsled team from 95 through 2002 until I retired, and just loved the sport.
Yeah. And again, though, they were looking for explosive athletes. And the way you trained since you were young is to explode.
Correct. So another part of the testing they do is they do lifting, but they do a little different there. So I do squat, bench press, and deadlifts. And I've been doing that since, like I said, I was 10 or 11. So I was like a master at that. I was really good at it. So they did the squat, which I knew I was gonna destroy everybody on the bobsled team and kind of try to show off. Even there was some athletes on the team that were like professional wrestlers. There was javelin throwers, there was hammer throwers, and big time athletes, track, of course, triple jumpers. And I was really good at squats. They did the squat, they did the bench press, but it had to be close grip, kind of like the sled. You couldn't be like a normal wide bench. You had to be like just like you're pushing a sled. So it was a close grip bench that wasn't great at, but I could, I was still pretty good at benching. And then the third lift was power clean, which I never did except for a little bit in high school. So that was part of their testing too, to see, how you can, compare to like the Germans and the Swiss and Canadians, because that's how they know how strong their teams are. The stronger, the faster guys, the better team's going to be.
Right.
So I killed everybody on the squat. I think I came in like second or third in the close grip bench, and came in like in the top 5 on the power clean, because I'd never really trained power cleans. But then after a couple of years doing that, I kind of built that up. But doing those lifts, if you can power clean a certain amount, or if you can squat a certain amount, pushing a bobsled is easy. It's like it moves, it slides, and it's like going out. Imagine pushing a shopping cart full of weights. Once you get it moving, it's moving pretty good. But it takes all that, training to get that point to make that sled feel easy. Mm-hmm. If you're like somebody that's really weak but is super fast, they can't push that thing.
Right.
They're not strong enough. They don't have the mass to move it. You have to have the mass and the strength, and then the speed kind of comes with it. Now, some of the super fast guys that are strong, Eco and Foreman, could be on the back, kind of hanging on. They're not really pushing it, but then when it does get going faster, they can keep up with it, and they're not slowing it down. Right. So that part kind of helps. But the main thing is you want to get that sled moving, and that's where I came in. I could get that sled moving.
Right. Do you ever think about yourself in terms of like how willing you are to take on challenges?
I've never really thought about it, I guess, but I guess, as I get older, it's easier for me to say no to things and say, it's probably not smart. That'd be stupid. I'll probably get injured. You start thinking about what could happen. But when you're talking from a 12 to 30-year-old, there probably wasn't anything somebody could say to me that I probably wouldn't attempt to try and to try to compete. And when you're in the sport of powerlifting, that's all you do. Like every workout is like you're competing. Mm-hmm. So if you're not competing for yourself, the numbers that you need to hit for the next meet, or who you're competing against the next time, what they're lifting. So you're constantly, like every set, every rep that you're doing is almost like all these are all little competitions you're doing. Okay. Like before every set, okay, I want to get 8 with this. I want to get 5 with this, whatever. And I got to do, good form. So you're always thinking about, it's like every time you walk up to the bar or lay down to bench, you're kind of doing a little competition. So
your mind is teaching you the joy of winning.
Yes. And how rewarding it is. And also one thing I didn't tell you before, I told you about my shoulder injury, that I had a problem, and my coach, kind of steered me away from football that year. So I focused on weightlifting, but then I also was a big track athlete. And then that helped, for me with bobsledding. But in high school, when I was running track, when I ran the 4x100, I always had a trouble on my inside leg, my left leg. I'd always tweak my hamstring a little bit and pull it. And after time, when you do it, like once you do it once, it's like it's always in your mind. You're always kind of thinking about it. So it was starting to become a little mental block with me. So I found a local doctor here that was a sports psychiatrist doctor, Dr. Makarowski, and talked to him, and he helped me a lot about going through training and meditations and relaxation exercises and stuff just to get your mind right. So you're not constantly focusing on all the bad. You start focusing on some of the good things that can happen, and then you can push yourself that way.
And how beneficial, that might be the most beneficial thing you did for life.
It's amazing. He made me some so we were cassettes. This is how long ago it was, in the early 90s. He made me some cassettes I could listen to that would help me relax. And put your mind kind of in a good state so you could really prepare yourself when you are going, either if it is just running like a 100-meter dash, or if it's you're pushing in front of, 50 guys and you're trying to impress everybody, you're having to go 110%. Or if it's or powerlifting, whatever it is, it helps you get your mind in that mental state that, as a kid growing up, I didn't really think about. You don't think about things. You just do it. Right. You just get under the bar and you're just doing it. You might think about your technique or, what you want to get, but you're not thinking about all the things to get your mind just right to do whatever the sport is that you want to do. And he really helped me with that, helped me focus and helped me with everything that I was, helped to get for my sport to get to the next level or to, maintain where I was, so I wouldn't have a setback.
Right. And so you, as I'll tell you what, let's take a break real quick and then we're going to come back and we're going to wrap this thing up. Okay. Welcome back, folks. Again, this is Surrounded by Sports. That's Chip Holston from Chip's Gym in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Like, subscribe, comment. Surroundedbysports.org is our website. Getting back to you, though, Chip. I've always been amazed at a lot of guys you meet that are have physical prowess. They get worried about other aspects of life. And it's but you... I've always noticed like gadgets, you're willing to buy them and figure out how they work. You've always been, you embrace the concept of 3 gyms because I have the technology now to get it done. I didn't just stop at what I have here because I can do more. Where does that confidence come from?
Back in the beginning when I talked about opening the first location, I talked about my stepfather, Dwayne Cook, and he's the one that started the Sentinel newspaper. He was always a big computer guy. He just, knew how to build computers. He knew how to make databases and spreadsheets. And he kind of helped me over the years. Like, when I was opening when we decided to turn my fun gym into like a business, we decided I needed a computer. And he said, well, hey, how about we build one? I was like, that'd be awesome. So he showed me how to build a computer. So I built my first computer for my first gym. And then he showed me how to build a database. And I still use that same database to this day for my overall gym. I mean, I've grown and I have, a software company that does all the big stuff for the sign up and everything, but I still use that database that he made back in 91. And he just kind of helped me with my computer, career and helped me to be comfortable with any kind of new software that was coming out, anything that was coming out. He wasn't afraid to get it. And actually, another funny story, my next step, my Dwayne passed a few years back, but my new stepdad is also into computers, and he's helped me a lot with that.
Wow. Well, yeah. As we wrap, like I told you off air, to me, in a lot of ways, you're a self-made man, right? You put in a lot of effort, but also your father builds you equipment you use today. Your stepdad helps you build a database you use today. Your mom got you had a facility and allowed you to turn that into something. You had a high school teacher that was willing to give you a shot at doing what you wanted to do. You had a Tulane teacher that said, hey, you could be there for 4 years, but that's a lot of money when you already know what you're doing and it's successful back home. You had somebody come in and help out here and there, but every time that's really the way it's supposed to work, right?
Right. I mean, like I said, I'm blessed. I've had such a great support. I can remember when I was first kind of getting, I wouldn't say depressed is the right word, but, kind of upset that these banks wouldn't help me out. They wouldn't take a chance on me. And I had my wife, was motivating me to keep pushing, keep trying. Something will happen. And that's when, then I get this call from, just a friend from the gym saying, hey, let's partner up when, I needed it. And then, all these different steps along the way, with my wife, different people have, helped me or supported me or done something for me to help me get to this point. I mean, I don't think anybody can, get to anything through life and be great without a bunch of people along the way helping them. And that's,
Right.
I've been just so blessed with, all these different people in my lives, to help me to get to this point.
Well, when you think about, let's talk about your wife. You're starting out a gym. You're training to be a world-class athlete. You're going to Lake Placid, New York. And she's telling you, yeah, go ahead.
Right. And in the middle of all this, I had my wife, we get pregnant and in 2001. And then I have to make a decision back then because the next Olympics was in 2002, was going to be in Salt Lake City. So I could either keep going the direction I was going, and then leave her at home to handle everything. And actually I had family too. My dad and my stepmom would help out with the gym, different people I'd hire, to kind of run the gym. But this is only when I had one location. But so I had to make a decision. So I decided to retire in 2002 when I knew my daughter Sophia was going to be born.
Right.
So that was part of it. So, but everybody was behind me 100% if I wanted to keep going, and not be here and travel. Because when you leave for bobsledding, you're gone about 6 months out of the year.
Right.
It's not like you're just going for a weekend and coming back. You're gone 6 months and then you come back. So I did have to have a lot of, support at home. And that's where she was very supportive either way, whatever my decision was.
Right. Right. But it's just, and it's wonderful, Chip, because you're invested in your community now. You're a staple there, and you help people find the best of themselves through what you do for a living, which is a wonderful thing to do. Hey, as we wrap, what are some universal truths you find with training?
The easiest one is if you don't put in the work, you're not going to get any stronger. I mean, my bread and butter is powerlifting, so people can't like fake their way through a workout or a contest. When you go up to the bar and you try to lift a weight that you've never done before, you're not capable of doing it. You're not going to be able to just fake your way to that weight. It's gonna humble you really fast.
Right.
So just with anything, you have to put in the time. And if you want to get smarter, if you want to, do more in life, if you want to have a great business, I mean, you got to put in the time and effort. If it's physical or if it's mental or if it's just time. It's the biggest thing I found. You really have to put in the work.
A lot of the core, you always see these new workouts and stuff like that, but a lot of it is still just what Arnold wrote about years ago.
Oh yeah. So yeah, a lot of these trendy workouts and different gyms are, popping up. You'll have like a Hot Works this and a CrossFit that, and different things. The biggest thing with weight training is you got to put the time in, but also your form has to be spot on. Mm-hmm. Eventually, if your form is bad on anything you're doing, it's going to catch up with you. It might work for a little while. You might be able to cheat your way through and do kind of, half this, half that. But if you don't do proper form, and another big thing, you're going to get injured. Like that's what's happening with a lot of these different sports. Either, with like CrossFit, the injury rate is so high because they're trying to speed their way through everything. They're trying to time a workout. They're trying to get from point A to point B as fast as they can. And they're going to do workout in the middle of that and try to do these lifts that don't need to be rushed. So, like with, like Arnold, him and Weider came up with like the Weider cheat principle. And pretty much the cheat principle was that you can, cheat your way through it, but doing heavier weight that you can't handle. But eventually it's going to catch up with you. You still got to be able to do the proper form and to do the proper technique for whatever lift that you're trying to do, and not try to, rush it and try to get to the end of the workout faster than you need to. You need to do the whole thing. Make sure you do all your auxiliary lifts and making sure you're doing everything, properly and so you don't get injured.
Right.
I'm 51 now, and I'm, knock on wood, I've had a couple little injuries here, nothing bad, but you'll see a lot of these guys over the years have just, destroyed their bodies. And I think that's from, doing things the wrong way or trying to get to where their body's not ready to get to yet.
Right. So in essence, figure out where you want to go with your body. Figure out what is your goal. Figure out a workout that makes sense, and then work at it without, have a plan, work the plan.
Right. Well, and you can't get frustrated with yourself either.
Right.
I mean, you might have a goal, and I do it all the time. I have, okay, by this time I want to be lifting this, or I want to be doing that, whatever it is. But if you don't get there, don't beat yourself up over it. And it's nothing worth giving up. So you got to just keep going, and you might have to adjust and remold your plan and have different ideas for what your final goal is going to be. Certain goals are harder than other goals, like maybe your physique look takes a lot longer than it does to get to a certain lift goal. Those kind of things. So you just have to kind of have realistic goals. I mean, you want to have big goals, but still have realistic ones that you can kind of get to at certain points. Don't just go from, okay, I want to be this to I want to be world record holder.
Right.
There's a lot in between that you're missing. Like all these kids are, I want to bench 400. I want to bench 400. And I was like, hey, what about 200? You're not even benching 200. Why don't you have that at your goal? And they don't even understand that. They can't even comprehend those little bitty goals. I'm like,
right.
have a 5-pound goal.
Right.
Or maybe the next time do the same weight, but I want to do a little better.
Right.
Those kind of things. You got to kind of bring it down to earth. And it's, it just makes, I think it makes you a happier person if you don't have these hefty sights that you're trying to accomplish. And it's almost like you're climbing up a mountain you're never going to get to the top of.
Right.
Have a goal, get to the base of the mountain first, and then we'll worry about the peak later. But just get to the mountain. They're not even getting to the mountain before they're trying to get to the peak. They're missing everything in between.
Right. You have to have an ultimate goal, and you have to have short-term goals. But what you're talking about too, that's basically weightlifting, right? I got to get through this set. I got to get through this rep, and then
right.
you back away from that and you go, okay, I got through today. Where do I want to be tomorrow? And then where you want to be in 6 months or whatever, right? Which is also the way you should do a business. The same thing you said, right?
Right. Yeah, like with work, I mean, I have, little stuff like, okay, if I can just get 5 things done today, on my desk, if I can just get these 5 things, I'm not trying to get everything done. If I try to get it all done, I don't get anything done. But if I just go through little steps here and there, but same thing with life or anything, just having these little goals. But most people, it's just, they just have that big goal, but they're never really getting there. They're kind of veering off. They're going in a different direction. They're doing, they're unfocused. They're going backwards. They're getting away from their goal. But your goal is this, and now you're going that way. You just got to focus a little bit. But if it's so far away, it's hard to keep that focus. You got to have that closer goal that you reach. Like, okay, I want to bench 5 pounds more tomorrow than I did last week. And, that's a goal I can reach. But if it's 100 pounds from here till by the end of the year, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. But the 5-pound goal I can reach. And that's the problem, with kids, I think. And it's like now with social media and everything, there's so much instant gratification. They're scrolling all day. They're doing this. They see some kid, jumping off his house, breaking his leg, making $1 million doing that. I'm like, I mean, and they think that they can make a living, doing stuff like that instead of having goals to really become something or, learn something or, accomplish something in their life.
Right.
That is following these people that it's like 1 in a billion kind of deal.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And I think we'll wrap on that. The idea is when you're weight training, your concept that you're telling me, the idea is me against the bar and really me against myself. And social media and things like that can sometimes get you to look and compete with things that aren't even, that you don't even know. Right. And compete with yourself.
And now to put a whole, like this, we could go talk about another hour about this, but I'll just leave it at this. But now with AI, you don't even know what you're looking at is real.
Right.
Like most of the times I'm looking at stuff and I'm trying to explain to kids, like, first off, that's not even real weight. Those are like, either those are fake weights, whatever. So there's so much fake stuff out there. And these kids are trying to, compete with fakeness that's not even real.
Boil all of that stuff down to how can I be better today?
Right. It's so simple. Just do one thing better than you did yesterday. That's all you got.
Thank you so much, Chip. I'm Kevin Perkins. This is Surrounded by Sports. That's Chip from Chip's Gym, 24-hour health and fitness racquetball club. Thank you so much, and you have yourself a great day. And thank you for watching, folks.
Thanks for having me.